Well, apparently I'm live, so I better get started, eh? Hello. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back. Nice to have you here. And the older I get, the faster these years fly by, boy. 2026, that's going to take a little getting used to, but um, every new year does now. It seems. Is it the same for you? I'm hoping that every time I write it, I will solidify a little bit more. Um, and just on the topic of New Year, before we dive into anything else, I'd be curious. So once you've joined up, and actually, if you haven't joined up yet, well, you can't hear me ask you the question. But anyway, one thought I was having is do you have like a New Year's practice? A New Year's, do you do something special um, to mark the passage of the year? I know it's a very arbitrary thing. You could pick any day of the year, right? You could pick your birthday, which would be an arguably more significant day for you, but um, um, in recent years, Kim and I really haven't done much like celebrating of the new year when we have it. But um, something that we have done a few times, and and well, actually, we've done it for a long time. So, hello, Val. Happy New Year. Nice to have you along. Um, Something that Kim and I have done for the last, I don't know, it's probably like 20 years now, is often on New Year's Day or in the first few days of the new year, we will do some journaling, or and so oftentimes oftentimes accompanied with conversations about um, how did the what what do we draw out from the last year? We reflect on how the last year went, and we it's not so much resolutions, but we will do some blue skying for what we want to manifest for the next year. And I know something that Kim always does, and we've done it together, and we've sometimes done it as separate entities, is come up with a word or a phrase for that's kind of like a mantra or um, a summation of the intention for the year. Like I know, um, yeah, I can I know Kim has done one, and she's told it to me, and now I've already forgotten because because and I haven't set one this year, but um, hello, Lisa. How are you? Good to have you along. Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. Awesome. Um, so I know Kim has done a bunch of worksheets as far as thinking about last year and this year, and I haven't done too much thinking yet about the new year. Time's a wasting, I know, but um, I did do a journaling session on all the things that I had done this past year, because I think it's very easy to forget all the things that you've done, right? Um, like like I go, oh yeah, that's felt like a busy year, right? But if you ask me why, I'd be like, I'd count, like I'd be able to remember three of the big things, right? And I think, well, that doesn't make a busy year. So I went a little more granular, and it was mostly through a lens of art making, um, because I'm an artist, and that's how I process life too. So I wrote out, and I used my calendar to double check, um, to prompt me, um, and it was like, wow, yeah, I did do a lot, right? There's a I forget where it comes from because that's my life. There's this cool thing that I learned that I can't remember where I learned it from, but the idea, it's a simple idea, and that is like, we always underestimate how much we can do in a day. Like if you saw my to-do list for a day, it's like, "You're never getting that done, Kathy." Like, pick the first 2 or the first 1, right? But also, so we underestimate what we can do in a day, and we way overestimate what we can do in a year. And, um, and it's amazing what you, um, what you can do, and I think it's good to look back at a year and go, "Right, that actually," like, I sometimes feel like, because years fly by, that it's been like, how is another year passed? I'm wasting my life, blah, 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 all the negative self-talk, and then I look back at the year and I write things down. It's like, yeah, that was a busy year. I accomplished a lot. I'm proud of myself and celebrate the wins, right? So, yeah, so in the comments, let me know if you how your 2025 was, maybe some highlights, and like maybe from an artistic point of view, right? Maybe from a collage point of view. I don't know. What I know Val and Lisa are here, and they're both of you guys are serious collagers. So I'm sure you have collage collage accomplishments in the past year. So that was kind of like a way off on a tangent. um, not a crazy tangent, but it's not about dissonance, our theme for the day. So maybe I'll get that started. So um, every so often I try and throw in for our prompts. I try and throw in a principle, an idea, rather than a word or phrase or something like that. So, um, dissonance in art is it's simplest if you just think about the idea of something that doesn't belong in the picture or doesn't feel like it belongs. Um, and it can belong in some ways, but not in others, right? So, dissonance is a great way to draw attention, right? So if you have a painting that is all blues and greens, and then you put one little shot of orange somewhere, right? It doesn't have to be big to be really noticed, right? Um, and this idea of like setting an expectation in the whole piece of artwork and then breaking that expectation, right? It's kind of this great bait and switch, and a lot of us use it without even thinking about it. But the idea of like, yeah, I've got a black and white photograph and I hand tint a little thing, or I'm collaging in this range of colors and then I put in a little shot of that, or it's an abstract, a non-objective collage, and then I put one little thing of representational in, right? Or it's all geometric and then I put one organic thing in, right? Um, so that can be it's a game that I never get tired of. Thinking about like um setting this expectation of like what this piece is about, and then putting the cat amongst the pigeons with something that is very much not that, right? Um, when I teach composition classes, the one thing I talk about is that dissonance is kind of like, it's best um, if it's the one thing that you do or the one significant thing that you do that's dissonant, right? Because um, you could have like, okay, well, here is a whole geometric abstract painting, and then you put in one little face, right? That's dissonant. Then you up there you put one little one, or over there you put um, an organic shape. And then over there, you put another thing that's dissonant, like maybe by color. And what starts happening is it starts watering down that one of these things is not like the other. In fact, a bunch of them are not like the others, right? And they tend to be you almost group them together by their being outsiders, right? Um, so that's what I'll be playing with, and I'll switch the camera in a second. But Lisa says last year was a good one for my art. I'm glad, Lisa. I know you've been cooking, so that's awesome. Congrats. She says I joined the Etobicoke Art Group's collage group. Yeah, awesome. And they had a great exhibition, right? So, and that was a good decision. It's been fun and challenging, and has enabled me to show my work. Yeah, and um, I'm sure I know several of the artists in that group, and they're good artists and they're good people, right? And that's worth a lot. Is when you have people who are, when you can surround yourself with people that are striving and supportive and not limited in their way of thinking. They're trying to advance their practice, right? So um, I every so often I'll teach people who are, especially at Halliburton, it seems to come up, is they're coming from a small town or a smaller community, and they have an artist group there, right? But um, but the artist group has, um, understandably, especially if you're in a small town, um, you're not exposed to as much cutting edge work. The expectations and the artists in the group are, they're playing a sort of more limited game, a more literal game. And I know sometimes artists are like, it's great, but it's also limiting, and they are looking to break out of that. So finding a group that is in alignment in terms of artistic courage and adventure, that's awesome, right? So yeah. Hello, Philippa. Welcome aboard. Happy New Year. Nice to have you along. Uh, it's lovely to have you back. Um, Lisa says, I've also made friends with other collage artists, which has been great, right? Yeah, the dialogue, like as artists, the like being able to talk about art, being able to see and ask questions of about their practice, about what they think about it, um, and work together and get input from people who aren't, who are open-ended and want you to grow rather than are bewildered by what you're doing and wish you would just go back to painting the canoe on the lake that like you used to, right? Yeah. So Philippa says, this is my problem here. Other artists are not into the cutting, the cutting, cutting edge, right? Yeah. For that, I have to dialogue with some online friends. Yeah, yeah. And I'll never forget, Philippa, when you, I think in one of my classes, I made mention of like AI art, and your first comment was, "Oh, I'd love to try that. I'd love to learn about that." And I'm just like, I love you, Philippa, in terms of you're so brave and adventurous, right? That's it, yeah. So, all right, I've yacked a lot, and I think I should get collaging. So I'm going to switch the camera over to the overhead, and let me know in the comments two things. And you can do it whenever, like in a break, or if you feel like doing it right away, like what your biggest plans are artistically for this year, or your hopes, or maybe what you're working towards for 2026. And are you working to, and so that's the bigger picture. And then for today, are you working with the prompt? Are you or are you working on something else? The prompt is, as I always remind you, is an optional thing to get you going. If you already have something get going, work on that instead. That's totally fine. And Philippa says that she doesn't remember that. I do. It's stuck in my head. So yeah, for sure. Betty, awesome. How are you? Happy New Year. Looking forward to Dissonance, she said. I'm inspired to look harder for a local group of artists. Yes, that that'll be awesome. Just I'm sure you've listened to what I was saying, so just bear that in mind that sometimes it you have to like, well, these parts are good, and those parts I have to sort of ignore or not feel influenced by, right? So, so, all right, gonna switch to the overhead, and away we go. So, do not adjust your screen. Your screen, like you would adjust your screen. Do not adjust your set, your computer. Oh, it's been a while since I did this, and I can't remember how it goes. How is that possible? No, it's all right, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. Just yakking to myself here. All right. And that's not even close to where I want it to be. Let's see. Let's do further forward. Sorry, guys. I should have set this up ahead of time. You would think that I would, but apparently I didn't. All right. A little crooked, but it's going to have to do. So actually, let's bring it over this way and then do this. That's more better for me. All right. Okay, so you won't be surprised at all to know that I don't have any plan. But I am just going to, so the first thing to do with Dissonance would be to sort of set up some kind of an expectation, like a piece that has a certain bit of consistency in at least some regard. And then while I'm doing that, I'll think about like what would contrast with it. So and Philip says, I love dissonance in music. Absolutely, right? So the dissonance I've been talking about is sort of more formal in terms of like one of these things is not like the other. But you can also have dissonance in terms of meaning, right? Like, oh, this scene makes all kinds of sense, except like if it's a scene or maybe there's a narrative, but then there's one thing, like if it's a period painting, for instance, and then there's one thing that's modern in it, it's like, what? Right? And Magritte would use that whole idea a lot, right? Like paint things that surrealism counts on it, right? Is these are all recognizable things, but what I'm doing with them doesn't make any sense, right? So all right, for some reason I'm gonna, oh, I know there's one thing I can talk about and share, and that is, so both Kim and I are working on a friend has invited us to an artist friend who's actually quite an accomplished artist, Elaine Whitaker, has invited us to take part in her next show. She's asking a lot of her artist friends to collaborate, which is awesome. She is a sci artist, so an artist who she's always been interested in science and science fiction. And in fact, at the beginning of the pandemic, suddenly her work was very, very suddenly of the moment, because she, prior to COVID-19, she had been doing work looking at pandemics and looking at disease and its spread through people, and in terms of not in terms of as an artist, right? But she knows a lot about science too. So in fact, she's done some work with labs. But anyway, so the pandemic happened, and she had these works called Plague or something about with where showing people wearing masks and work in petri dishes, and it was like, oh my god, this work is like immediately like hyper relevant, right? So what she's looking at now is like this show is called Cum Grano Salis, which is Latin for a grain of salt, and it's a forward-looking show about like what fantastical futures, I guess. And so she's looking at the future of different things with different artists. Um, so I am trying to create sort of a, with my collage work generally, I don't address transgender stuff very much, but I thought I should, and so I've been making these figures that are hybrids of many different things, many where one gender begins and one ends, and conglomerations of possible fantastical human combinations, which it has some wit and so on. So these are not finished yet. The show is going to be strongly blues. So that's one of the things that ties everything together in the show. So these figures are going to be cut out. So for instance, these pink backgrounds aren't going to be there anymore. The little pink bits that are in the figures will be, but the whole work will be primarily blues with a couple of shots of pink. And that's because the transgender flag is about pink and blue because of the gender dichotomy, or gender binary. So so these are what I've been working on, and we'll see how the piece comes together. It's going to be on a circular panel, so that's also a challenge. I'm not used to working on circles, so. Oh, thank you, Holly. Welcome aboard, by the way. Hi. So let us know in the comments what if you're working with the prompt, what kind of dissonance you're thinking about, or if you're going to work on something else. All good. There's no such thing as a bad collage as far as I'm concerned. And so Kim was doing some sorting and had a big pile of old jelly plate prints that she was getting rid of. And I said, I'll take some of those. Thank you very much. So they're the top thing in my drawer. I'm rummaging through my blue drawer. So I'm not sure how much of this I'll use, but it might be kind of fun to have it as part of the mix. So color is an easy way to create harmony, right? So these things are very dissonant in other respects, pattern, sort of painterly, photographic, graphic. So maybe they do have the color tying them together. And I guess I've got blue in my head because of the project I've been working on. But and actually, I think, I like what I've got just there that just sort of threw it down. So I'm thinking maybe I should work with a bigger sheet. I just have to take the top sheet of this. This was from one of our earlier jams. Yet you would not believe how many unfinished collages I have sitting around like this. I really like this, but I haven't come back to it. So there you go. But I needed the bigger pad that it was sitting on. So Now this may be too dissonant in terms of it all being blue, but very, very, very dissonant otherwise. So if I'm trying to set up an expectation, blue may not be enough. So maybe I should, well, probably taking the photograph out of it, although I love that photograph, might narrow it down a bit. So yeah, sorry to go quiet on you. I was just trying to evaluate where to start and what to do with it. So this is definitely one person's trash is another person's treasure, because this thing that has like tree branches in it and distressing, it's subtle, but it's really beautiful. Wow. So much so that I don't want to be precious. I don't want to like, oh, I got to save that, but I might I might do that in this case. So and I'm not going to have anything left, right? So took the car out and then took that piece out. So what am I going to have left? You wonder, and I wonder too. All right, I'm just going to start with these 3 pieces and go from there. And I will check in on comments every so often. I'll check in another couple of minutes. Just get a few pieces glued down first, and then away we go. So I'm just trying to think personally what I have coming up for that will be animating my art 2026. And obviously the artist project is sort of my first major commitment / rendezvous. And since I use it as an opportunity to showcase new work, that is my biggest target next. I have a bunch of other things going on, like the trans piece for Elaine's show, but the artist project it's earlier this year, so, and I honestly haven't started, and that is not a good thing because it's the end of March, and I always try and have, I don't know, 20 odd pieces of new work ready for it. And so not having started is not good. It's not good, guys. So I will have to fix that. So I'm just trying to clear off my slate a little bit. And I think what I'm going to have to do is tell myself that I don't have to clear it off. I just have to interleave my work on the artist project, work for the artist project with everything else. And I know that, but it seems that's a lesson I have to keep relearning, is not to get too attached to like finishing one thing before I move to the next. Like try and obviously if you're juggling a million things, it gets overwhelming, but really you can only do so much effort on one thing before you get stale. So it is better to work a little bit on this, then switch over to this, then switch back to that. So I have to heed my own advice. Does anyone else have any large shows coming up in sort of the first half of the year that they're working towards? I think beyond that, for me, that's probably the biggest thing. And then I'm going to do some applications for and try and get my work out there in the fashion world a little further afield. So approach either publications, blogs, fashion weeks, and so on a little further afield, and see whether I can find make some opportunities that way. I just noticed that this has one of those micro perfed edges. So quickly tore that off because that gives me an interesting edge, right? I'm interested in the torn edge and the printed edge from the gel plate print. And then that gives me another kind of edge, which is kind of fun. So yeah, so when I check in on comments, I'll see what you guys are working towards this year, and that's one kind of goal you can have is like a exhibition type goal. Do you have artistic goals? Like, for instance, I don't know whether I'll have it. Well, I'm pretty sure I won't have it together in time for the artist work I do for Artist Project. But something I want to do is start to do collages, still fashion based, still faces and figures, but start to make them of people, specific people, rather than, not that the models I'm working with aren't specific people, but they're not people I know, right? So I would love to work with either, I've met a very few people in fashion now, so those people are good options, but also just people I admire, people I know, and to make there be more of a personal connection with me and who I'm representing, rather than, oh, this is a pretty figure or pretty face or an interesting photograph or whatever that I want to play with. So that, I think, is an artistic goal that I have, that in where I want to take my work a little further. All right, before I do any more, although I see this piece and maybe I'm going to put this piece in first. I lied. So I guess I am going to put one more thing in. Well, maybe I'm going to think about putting it in. Yeah, I think something like that is better because it gives a change of direction. So, all right. So I am going to glue that in, and then I'll check your comments. All right, let's see what you guys are saying over here. Thank you, Philip. But yeah, it is exciting. Holly says the dangling male hand on the central figure is particularly interesting, catches something interesting. Yeah, it's a little bigger. And I didn't intend it this way, but what I tried to do was collage with I tried to scale, because these photographs are found online, and some of them, and then I printed them out. And so when I work with the magazine, they're only the size they are when they're printed. These figures, I had to sort of scale them approximately to the same size, but I tried not to be super, super careful about that, because I think it's best when you have some scale changes, right? If they're wildly out, I think it doesn't work. But so this one was definitely a little bit too big, right? But and funnily enough, since this is a trans theme, I didn't intend this, but trans women are often very self-conscious about their bigger hands, right? So it's kind of funny in that regard if you know that. Not that it's required, right? But I also really enjoyed putting extra limbs in, so that they kind of felt almost like they're in motion, right? Like this figure has like 5 arms. This one has oh, this one's modest. This person only has 3. This person has 4. So yeah, I didn't go nuts with the feet, but the arms I definitely enjoyed adding extra ones. And let's see. Annie says, "Hi, Kat. Happy New Year to you and Kim." Hello, Annie. Nice to have you along. Welcome back. And Holly, where are you joining us from? Yeah, it's nice to have you live. That's awesome. The universe was created in 7 days. You'll be fine. I love that. Thank you. Exactly. I'll need more than 7 days because I'm not God. But yes, I will definitely. I will take that to heart, because I just do my best that I can, right? Holly says it totally captures the mismatch between assigned sex and felt sex, right? Yeah, absolutely. At first I was thinking with those figures that putting them together like Frankenstein might be perceived poorly, but then I thought, whether you're trans or not, we're all trying to pick the pieces, pick the influences, pick the things, make ourselves out of our influences into the way we want to be, right? That can apply to obviously transness, right? But it can also apply to art and life and everything, right? Because, oh, this person really was a good influence, a massive influence on me. I want to be more like them in this way, right? So you take that aspect and you try and work it into your life. So, and this is one, like something that I do a fair bit is, and I'm trying to do more, is write. And often when I'm writing, I will have I'll have epiphanies that about my work or about my life that I wouldn't have unless I was writing. So figuring that bit out about the multiple pieces pieced together to make a whole, and that is actually a universal experience. That was an insight that I had in writing. So. Holly says, yes, all the arms like a Swiss Army knife. Exactly. From Devizay in Wiltshire. Oh, awesome. Wow. So it's a little late for you, eh? What is it, like 8:00 at night? So ish. So yeah, welcome. That's awesome. I have been to the UK exactly once. I loved it. I felt like I was at home when I didn't even know that because I my parents trace back to England, and I found the land of cozy, of tea time, of wordplay, and I was just like, "Wow, that's awesome." So, uh, haven't been back since. That was quite a while ago now, but I'll get there. I'll get there. All right, I have to say, I'm gonna try the car back in, even though I know. So, so Holly, are you a collageaholic or new to collage, or um, are you heavily into collage? Let us know. Um, yeah, I kind of feel like over here is good. Just trying to figure out the optimal position. It's always a question, do you line things up? Like I'm kind of loving this tear running into this the bottom of the windshield, but I also like the dark down here that I don't want to lose. I guess it could extend a little bit below. And I don't want to cut off this interesting shape here. I like seeing some of the shapes through the windshield. So like down here, it's less interesting. So I think it's going to be somewhere like here. And I know it's my nice car, but I'm just going to go for it because life's short. I can always, in fact, this car was like something I did for one of the earlier collage jams, and I can always print it out again if I want. I'm always trying to find ways to give myself permission or remind myself to use whatever I like, to not hoard it, to not save it up, because, well, I kind of feel like if you use it, then the universe says, "Oh, you're going to use that? I'll send you more." And you're doing something that's good for you. You're being creative. You're actualizing. So, all right, so here's more, right? Whereas if you hoard it, it kind of backs everything up, and it's like, well, I don't need to send you more because you're not using it. So that's the basis on which I try to do my collages. Oh, these rocks, these sort of pebbles look great against this Yeah, I'm looking on the camera and thinking these colors are more different on the camera than they are for me, but they just they seem to want to play together, so gonna have to do that. Yeah, exactly, Betty. So Betty says, I love that philosophy of not hoarding. Less grows to more. Exactly. Like um it's kind of a it's a philosophy of sort of like a mindfulness of abundance rather than the opposite. Um and and I like abundance. So especially when it comes to the things that really matter, like people and art. Those are the places I want my abundance. Now, someone wants to send me a huge check. That's totally cool too. But, uh, but I think um, I think making art, being creative, and that's why I corrected myself from making art to being creative, because there are millions of people, billions probably in the world, who say they don't make art, but they are creative. And being creative, I think, is crucial to our well-being. So um, it's I was reading again. I have no idea where. I would think it was on Instagram, but someone posting about um, how important creativity is for mental health, and how no one, the mainstream media does not talk. Well, most people, I don't think, value creativity um, as a tool for agency and a tool for balance, right? Um, I try not to get into it, the state of the world, and I'm not going to. But let's just acknowledge that it is challenging, and that can lead us to very bad places from a mental health point of view. So, not when you make things, you are committing um, to an act of, well, first of all, you're doing something, right? Just actually doing something rather than receiving, always being the receiver, being someone who is making things that, like, maybe you're the only one who sees it, or they go out into the world. Either way, making things gives you a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling of agency, a feeling of control. And I don't mean like making this collage is going to make you feel like your life is in control. It doesn't work like that. But there is an aspect of, like, ultimately, we don't have that much control in life anyway, right? Really, honestly, if we're honest. But that feeling of um, doing that, of making stuff, of making decisions, of working with our hands rather than just being a sponge for other people's ideas, other people's viewpoints, other people's emotions. This is about us expressing ours, and I think that is huge. So, and very much not talked about enough, I think, in mental health circles. So, of course, there are people who are enlightened and understand that is the importance of that, right? I'm not saying everyone. So, well, that kind of went in an interesting direction. Sorry, guys. All right, so I'm madly creating a collage with only half a mind on it, and it's going in different directions that it is going to be a challenge to come up with something that is dissonant in this. Obviously, if it's not blues, it will be dissonant, but I've got several different kinds of other things in this, so I'll have to think about that one. I know. Why don't I read your comments while I think about it? Holly says, completely new to collage. Awesome. Welcome aboard. I hope you love it and take to it and enjoy it. It is a wonderful place to be, I think. Trying to find a medium that works well with my chronic health stuff. Weak arms. Okay. I love the variety and playfulness of collage. Want to learn skill of layering. And then she says, I find as soon as I put anything down, then I don't want to cover. I feel hesitant, aggrieved to cover it. I need to just practice doing it and go too far so I can find balance. Well, Holly, you have just you've just answered exactly how I would answer. The best thing to do is, okay, so what are we using here, right? We're using paper, glue stick. It's not going to set you back a lot of money, right? So, so give yourself the freedom to just make a bunch of stuff. And when we sort of get stuck about worrying about what something looks like, or something that a lot of artists talk about is whether it's painting or collage, they do something and then they look at it, either the piece or a part of it, and they say they get precious about it, right? Oh, I don't want to cover that, or I don't want to mess that up. You do have to just be willing to go too far to ruin it, or and to just like, that is just chalked up to experience. Because if you sort of, you will end up immobilized unless you just keep going, right? So, I will sometimes set myself a timer and say, okay, I only have so much time. And when the timer goes, if it's not all glued down, I have to just glue it down and move on. That's one way. So using time to sort of outrun your worries. Another option is that's beneficial, I find, is taking a picture. Like I've been doing it long enough that I don't feel this way, but say that I was like looking at this collage and thinking, I want to do more to it, but I kind of really like what's here, so I don't want to mess it up, right? Well, if I take a photograph of it now, and then it kind of says, okay, I've recorded it, so it will sometimes give you just enough permission to move further. Like if I do something that just like, oh, it completely ruined it, right? I can at least look back at my photograph on my phone and say, okay, yeah, I see what was good about it. I see what I did that didn't work, and then just move on, right? So, making and moving on, make, move on, make, move on, make, move on. Two things. It's easier said than done, but art is about making and judging. And when you do those things together, you're screwed. But if you make first, judge later. So if I just make a bunch of collages today and tomorrow morning or next week, I look at them and I decide, okay, what do I think about those now? Right? That's fine. But if we can tie ourselves up in knots if we're like making, oh, and then we're worrying about like, oh, is that wrong? Is this right? Oh, what should I do? I don't know. So just make and then look at them later in terms of thinking about it. And Annie, thank you, Annie, suggested might try Februage again this year to make artist trading card sizes. Awesome. And yeah, Februage is awesome. And in fact, my second collage jam, which is February 23rd-ish, I forget the exact day, we'll be working with whatever on Virtual Collage Jam. We'll be working on whatever the Februage prompt is for then. I'm not sure they've even published the prompts yet, but yeah, Februage is awesome. It's and that's so Holly, that's great for what I was just talking about, right? You make a collage a day. There are a lot of make a painting, make a drawing, make a collage a day kind of challenges out there, and they're perfect for not being precious, right? You make one, you move on with your life. The next day, you make another one, you move on with your life, you make another one, and everything that we want to get better at in our life benefits from from doing a little bit and not sweating it, and then doing a little bit more the next day. It's the consistency, the commitment to doing a little bit at a time that is what moves us ahead. So, Holly says, I want to see what you made last year, Annie, but I realize we can't share here. Yes, but Holly, there is a Virtual Collage Jam group on Facebook. So if you look for Virtual Collage Jam group, you have to request to join, but then you can post your collages there and you can see what other people post. So please do that. I'll go and check. I have to approve you the first time, but beyond that, then you can just post whenever you like. Lisa says, this year I'd like to do more analog collage and figure out how to incorporate it into my sculpture. That sounds awesome, Lisa. I know the digital collage is awesome, especially like the ability to undo and to endlessly play with layers or sizing or whatever. And I know in your case also to blow it up, but analog is awesome too. So, and given that you're a sculptor and a gardener, Lisa, I bet you love that tactility as well, right? So, yeah, I'd love to see what you do collage-wise 3-dimensionally. When I did this, I mean, it was all flat surfaces at the Station Gallery show that I did last year. So it's only 3-dimensional in that it was like cardboard, right? So it wasn't wrapped around interesting surfaces or anything, but I found it very compelling and interesting challenge to work in 3D that way. And for you, I can imagine something, well, I can't imagine and I can. I can't imagine specifics, but I can imagine something amazing. So, and you could work do some small size maquettes before you get big, unless you prefer to work big. So I I will watch with interest, Lisa. That sounds awesome. All right. I am going to quite literally chuck something dissonant into this, but I think what I'm going to do is, okay, so why am I pausing? Because one thought is that I might put this aside and start another one and then do the dissonant things just at the end. Yeah, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I think this one really only needs one more thing, the dissonant thing. Now, and as soon as I say that, that's its kiss of death, because I'll put the dissonant thing in and then, oh, I'll have all these other ideas. But that is just the way of creativity. There we go. Thank you, camera. All right, I'm going to do something using warm colors. Oh, yeah, you're welcome, Holly. I'm glad those are helpful. She says, love the advice and encouragement. Thank you. Time caps and photos and moving on. Thanks for a Facebook tip. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to come back, Holly, to while I work on whatever I'm doing next. If you have strength issues in your arms, probably, oh, come on, camera, focus, please. Thank you. Probably collage is great, right? Because most of the time the materials are quite light. So if it's only strength and not dexterity, then it should be fine, right? So like I know some senior collagers who have arthritis, and it's hard for them. They do an amazing job, but they do struggle with the dexterity of the knife or the scissors or both. But I always say, and I believe, that the most important tool is the one that's between your ears, right? So there are lots and lots of examples of artists who have various physical and even mental challenges, and yet they make amazing art. So there are always ways around it. Okay, maybe not always, but there are usually, let's put it that way. So that kind of ended abruptly. I'm not sure why. Sorry about that. It's because I'm walking and chewing gum, guys. I'm sorry. But there are artists all over the place who have turned various quote unquote disabilities into superpowers. A few that come to mind are, of course, I can't remember the name of the guy, but there's an artist in the US who is actually blind, and he paints by using relief paint and feeling the face of his subject, like a marker, or there's a kind of paint that gives you a raised line, and then he can feel the line. So that's amazing, right? Kim and I taught a woman who had no color vision. She she likened what she could see to a moonlit night. So she saw no color and everything was very dark. She would hold things right up close to her face to see them. And I remember thinking, like when we saw that she had this accommodation um, for I think she's legally blind. She can see, but she's in this very limited way. And like she's applying to she's in a visual arts program. How is this going to work? She was astounding, really astounding. Both, and her work was unique and it was amazing. And so, and there's Chuck Close, the American artist who had I think it wasn't a stroke, but it was like a stroke. It was something more specific, I think. But he ended up largely paralyzed. So he tapes his brush to his hand. And before the event, he was a hyper realist and he became more abstract. But what didn't change was his artistic adventure. And he got more and more creative in terms of how he did things, the processes he came up with to make art. And he's like one of the giants of like late 20th century, early 21st century work, Chuck Close. And he has to tape his brush to his hand. And he has mechanical lifts and assistants because he is accomplished enough. But it didn't stop him at all. In fact, some would probably argue that it made him. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But when he got handed the lemons, he made some pretty great lemonade. So there are usually ways around. I have no idea what I'm doing right now, which oftentimes is a good thing. I just switched my drawers to my orange drawer and started pulling things out. I didn't go rummaging through it. And it seemed that between this image and this image, there seems to be a fair, like a connection of sort of these circular shapes. So for whatever reason, this collage is going to be about circular or roundish shapes. So, and it seems that I'm finding them. So. Might as well get this other bicycle out. So, as usual, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just finding visual analogies, right? Between, I'm just looking for circular or ellipses and playing with them. And these lily pads just kind of feel like they need they need additional bicycle wheels in them, don't you think? So oh, I have to tell you guys, I just have to keep talking, don't I? It can be hard for an introvert sometimes. Not that I'm a true introvert anymore, but that's certainly where I started life, and teaching has changed that. But I am a selectively introverted, I guess. So, or I am an introvert who can extrovert at least somewhat. That's probably the best best way to express it. And I will take a drink of water before I keep going into this terrible. All right, I will check in with comments in a minute or two, see what you guys are saying. So there are only so many lily pads that are sort of in the same approximate size as these wheels, and so it's interesting to like noticing these stems. It kind of feels like putting that part of the bicycle to align with it is actually makes it kind of fun. So I'm going to go with that. I'm trying to not entirely cover the lily pads because I want the sort of connection, the difference and similarities to be noticed. So rather than match them perfectly, I'm trying to put them on where you can still see the lily pads and you notice at least their shape connection to the bicycle wheels. As part of that. I don't know, call me a simpleton, but I find this ridiculously pleasing. just playing, right? And I think so. That's another thing I think is very important for creativity is to enjoy it, to make yourself giggle, to have. Of course, there's work that's deadly serious too, but I think when you can, when you make yourself happy making art, it's awesome, I think. That sort of didn't work out. That sentence did not really express what I was driving at very well, but oh well. Let's see. So Annie says compression gloves really help. And instead of cutting, tearing is very freeing. Absolutely. So I love the fact that collage has both cutting and tearing. And like each one has and they're great contrast, but they each have they feel very different to do them. If you find yourself being too precious with cutting, tearing is a great change up. I also love, for instance, the combination of having like carefully cut things and torn things, because when we look at this, we know that was done with very little control, right? It probably happened fast, and it probably happened with very little control. Whereas we look at these edges and we know that they were done with care and caution and with control. And having those two in the same piece is a great contrast. It's like a painting that has very carefully painted something or other, and something that was just like thrown on, quite literally, like or splashed on, or done quickly and with only so much control, right? And we feel the difference in energy, right? So and tearing is very, very, especially if you're getting too fussy and it's driving you crazy, tearing is like the antidote. So yeah, good point, Annie. Thank you. Holly says, I know I can be too precious. Great suggestion, tearing to help loosen things up. Absolutely. Holly asks, when you guys are collecting your fodder from magazines, do you have a method, like specific image styles or colors, or just picking up randomly what you like? Just saying you have an orange drawer makes me wonder. I see I'm going to need a fodder organization pretty quickly too. Haha. Absolutely. Holly also says, I haven't come across compression gloves. I'll check them out. Thank you. You're all so thoughtful. So Holly, welcome to Artists. Artists are the best in terms of being supportive of each other. Of course, there are some asshole artists out there, but I have to say, if I had to generalize, that I have found so many like sterling quality humans as artists. Like, so welcome to the fold. But you were asking a question that I wanted to pick up on, and that was, okay, yeah. So organization of materials. So I do have drawers. I have a drawer unit that has different colored drawers, like 10 of them, I think, or so. So I have organized, I use this to throw my scraps in. So So anything that is orange and brown is darker orange. So brown, orange, anything that's more orange than anything else goes in this drawer. And that makes my cleaning up easy. And it also means that I can go looking for different kinds of orange, right? So, but there are, depending on the kind of collage artist you are, you might organize differently. If you, for instance, decide you're going to use vintage materials, you may organize them by like, these are old suitcases, these are old car ads, these are old fashion images. So there are infinite numbers of things that you can organize by. So you can try different ideas, right? Some people will, like I have stacks of magazines. I keep it to fashion magazines mostly just because of the nature of the work that I do. But I do have other things, and they're just organized like those are all the fashion magazines. Then the like a few of the other things are organized in piles. The drawers are very useful because I find anyway, because color is one of those more general things, right? I do have a couple of drawers that are very specific things that I also use. And this one, I don't know whether you can see it, is called text. So this is anything that has any kind of text, because I like using text. I have a graphic design background, so I love text and typography. And I also have a neutrals drawer that is black, white, gray, all of those things. So that works for me. But and that might be a good place to start. But you may because when you're starting out, you just have to start, right? But you will soon become like you'll soon have an idea of like how you benefit from finding things. So drawers are great because like these drawers are great. I can pull it out and put it at my desk, and then I can put it back. Shelves, folders, like when I'm working on a collage, I'm just trying to think if I have an example over there. I have it's off camera, but I have another shelving unit that has a few different drawers, not drawers, shelves. And it, like one is images that I've collected that I like, so that I will want to work in with. There's one that's called grounds. So those are collages that have like a nice background, but aren't a collage yet. So I can pick those up and start with them. I have a work in progress shelf. And I also have what's called a lasagna shelf. And so that's decollage. That's a different story. We won't get into that right now, but it's a kind of something I've prepared that I will then use later. So, all right. So I see we're winding down time-wise. So I better put something dissonant in this baby. And so I had my orange drawer out already, and it's got this picture with lots of orange roofs. And this picture has no orange in it, or maybe a tiny bit in there. But so I'm thinking like, I don't know, like a slice of these roofs would be kind of fun and unexpected. So that's what I'm going to give that a whirl. So, Holly, I said earlier, welcome to artists, and something I've heard from artists who have traveled is that being in a new country can be, or a new part of the country, a new place can be alienating, or maybe exciting, but also tricky. But I've heard, and I believe, and my wife has experienced it, and as have I. Wherever you go, once you've found the artists, as an artist, you're home, right? So, and I'm sure it's the same for other pursuits, right? If you're an athlete, when you find other athletes, you suddenly have a whole bunch in common, even if language and culture are different. But I like my wife Kim just was in South Korea in the fall, and she met up with artists and talked with gallerists and so on. And she said, as soon as now, she also met and talked with all kinds of lovely other kinds of people, but as soon as you're with artists, you have this shorthand, right? And that just puts you immediately, you sort of understand each other on a fundamental level. So, and that's like, that is such a beautiful thing. So, yeah, so coming up with something that is going to be dissonant in this is actually, because I chose so many different things. Yes, color is definitely dissonant, but it doesn't stand out as much as you might think. But I'm just gonna go with that anyway because I'm running out of time. So. Generally speaking, if you want to play up dissonance like to the max, then what you do with your overall composition is you create very, very strong harmonies. So, for instance, if I had only done blue things that had patterns on them like this one, and not textured paint things and photographs and flat things, and then I introduced like a photograph that's different, a color that's different, that would make it more so. So, but I didn't, and this is often what happens when I get yakking. So, so this will do the job, and I'll check in with comments in just a couple minutes. I glued the wrong side. All right. Not a tragedy. All right. So the reason my hands are going off camera is I'm just gluing things on this just sheet of scrap paper. So I'll put it on screen so you can actually see it there for a minute. And then I'm just going to slot this in somewhere. That feels like the spot. And it's going to be the spot because I committed to it, Holly. Whether or not it's the right spot. So one thing that this does have that's dissonant, apart from color, is that most of these things have a bigger feeling, right? Like the car is very big. The rocks are a band that look like it goes all the way across. Same with this piece. This piece fairly big, and this is smaller. So it's small and it's oranges, whereas these are bigger and bluer. So at least it's got that. So all right. So I can see that my timer has gone off. So I'm going to come back and get back on camera and read the last few comments. And there we go. All right, let's see. So Lisa says, I have drawers for the 6 colors. Yep, ditto. Neutrals, people, text, and mixed color images. Perfect, right? So yeah, like mixed color images, I decide when I'm filing them, it's like, oh, well, this has more red than anything else, so it goes in the red drawer. But so there you go. Like Lisa's using a system that is colors, but also very specific other things she likes, like people and text and mixed color things. She says, when I get a magazine, I cut the spine off and then sort the pages into the drawers, but I don't edit what I keep. Right. So in other words, she just chucks a bunch of stuff in, right? So something that I like to do, and this is kind of like that, where she doesn't say, oh, I don't want to keep that, I don't want to keep that, I'm going to keep this. I will sometimes tell myself, okay, I'm going to pick up one magazine from my pile, and everything I find in that, I have to make the collage with only with things I find in that. So that's a way of limitations that you give yourself voluntarily help you narrow the amount of overwhelm, right? If you can do anything, you'll do nothing. Whereas if you have like only a couple of colors, or it all has to come out of this magazine, or I only have this much time, then you will get creative and not overwhelmed. So Holly says, nice removable drawers. Yes, they are. They're awesome. And text drawer, brilliant. Thanks for showing. Lasagna shelf. That makes me laugh out loud. I appreciate the artist welcome so much. You're welcome. Taking it to heart. Awesome. Holly says, haha, Annie, it's a great system if you're using it to create. Lisa, you barbarian, cutting off the spines. Great sport, haha, Holly says. Philippa says, thanks a lot. I've learned a lot from you today's jam. Awesome, that's great. There's always something to learn, and there's always fun to be had. That's sort of what I would like. So I actually finished a collage more or less, which is very unusual for me. So yay. And I'm just going to pull up my calendar. So our next collage jam is in 2 weeks' time on Monday, January 26th. And that there is a collage call from, I found it. I can't remember where it was from. I think it's Australia, but don't hold me to that. But it's a collage call, and you could make collages for it and submit them if you like, or you could just use it as a theme. So if you go to my website and go to the Virtual Collage Jam page, you will see a link there for the 26th, and you can go and take a look at the at the parameters of that call, and you can either like you can make some work on that theme, and if you like it, then submit it, or if it doesn't work out, well, don't worry about it, right? So that's what we'll be working on. I think it had something to do with surrealism, but because I am woefully unprepared, I am going to direct you to my website, or AKA my second brain. So go look at that and see what the parameters are, and those are the parameters we'll be working with. I will make sure it's in the it's elaborated on a little bit more in the emails that you get about upcoming collage jams. So Holly, if you want, you can go to my website and sign up for my mailing list, which will give you prompts to give you a heads up when the next collage jam is coming and what the theme is. So, because I apparently can't remember. So, thank you very much for joining me, guys. It's been awesome. And please post any collages you did in our Virtual Collage Jam group. And we will see you in a fortnight. All right. Take care. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon. Keep collaging meanwhile. Thanks, Annie. Likewise. See you next time. Likewise, Lisa. Awesome. I can't wait to see 3D collage from you. That's going to be awesome. And you're welcome, Holly. It's been lovely. Great to have someone from the land across the pond. Thanks for coming, and come back again. All right, guys. Take care. See ya.